something we do a lot in conflict management, which is to address the behavior, not the person. It's, hey, I didn't like this thing you did. You're not a bad person, but this was not good, right? Like we got to do something about this.
Why am I talking about couples therapy principles? Because if you apply those to conversations between people who can actually make a major difference, they would probably both get a lot of what they want, and we would see a happier culture. We're just not there yet.
Privilege and wealth are two different things, the same thing. And so often when the word privilege comes up, people go, well, I had to work hard to get where I am today. It's like, well, yeah, you did, but that's not equivalent. We're talking about two different concepts. I think really, really interesting because it's saying, if we were to compare it to a video game, and I think actually Adam Savage from Mythbusters talked about this, but he was saying, like, if you're white male, you're starting the game on easy, right? That's step one. Then you have to build your character, and that character has a certain amount of points to distribute amongst various attributes, whether it's wealth, charisma. And then after that, you start your game, and the game is, there's no guarantee you will win. Like Buddha says, everything is suffering. So no matter what, that will be part of life. So there's no guarantee you will win the game. But what does matter is, depending on your character and how your attributes are distributed at the start, will impact what happens next. There might be certain parts of the map that are open to you from the start that are not open to other characters, depending on their level of difficulty and their character settings.
I've got pals who lean very far left. A good handful are in the middle, like myself. Now, I'm a little bit left of center. And then I've got some pals and family members who are brilliant, and I love them to death. And there's no real but to that. It's just that they happen to lean not just right, but very, very far right. And when I've had conversations like this with those people, exactly what you're describing can sort of bubble up in the back of their head. And, I don't try to go into persuasive mode with them once I notice that they're sort of locked in. Because what that can do is it can stir the pot in a way that they may not be able to handle yet. I'll wait for the right time where we're already agreeing on a bunch of different things that are related to life, politics, people we care about, and of course finances and how that translates into what kind of life you can have, prospects, right? You don't have prospects, good luck with a lot of things. They're right, and it's fair for them to say that they're too upset to go there. And I understand that, people who are protesting, who don't have the room or the energy in themselves to pause, basically not do this concept I'll talk about later called splitting. And then you can't see in gray areas. You're locked in neurologically into all or nothing, black or white, right or wrong, us versus them. And that's that. There's no nuance to it. And that exists on both sides of the political spectrum.
And then you're also mentioning that there's times where they are just not receptive to it. If the person's wrong, or whether they even know they're wrong, they fight it and they double down on their beliefs.
And I'll just bring it up now. Splitting, that's really tough because, again, if your brain is in a mode where you just can't see beyond your own point of view, that's tricky. If that person doesn't have exposure to a lot of different kinds of people, cultures, ideas, when you don't have that well ingrained inside of you, it's not only hard for you to begin to understand someone from the other side of the argument, wherever they might be, a different state, a different county, a different city. You may even resent the idea that there is a thing that you have to learn.
Why people procrastinate. Procrastination is not necessarily about the obstacles you have or this or that. It's at a foundation, an emotional issue. Like usually it's because you're, it's more connected to how you feel about the thing you have to do, whether it's, oh my God, this feels daunting, or it doesn't make me happy. And so you put off actually doing it. From your standpoint, how would you address procrastination?
That can be a sign of good old-fashioned depression. I mean, if you're in a pretty prolonged funk, there's a number of things that happen. You might be kind of low on energy. You might be irritable. Your brain will react as though it's partially asleep. And so your energy is not there. You do have the energy to do something, but your belief system is very powerful. So that will do it.
Probably ever since I left high school, I always felt that our culture, society, and even specifically education system does not train us to address emotions or to even have levels of awareness that are needed to become an adult. And then in society, we have roles like police officers, which are people that have power and the ability to have physical power above other people in a society where we're not taught to, control our emotions, identify our emotions, to have levels of awareness. How does this all relate? I feel like there's something here that maybe has some connection. situation.
And I want to be fair. Again, it's important how we frame this conversation, because it's a delicate time, and it's important that people understand that you and I aren't diving into this willy-nilly without not just a grasp, but a compassionate grasp on the different sides. At one point, I thought I was going to go into the Chicago Police Department. I didn't know what I wanted to do for a while, right out of college. I was a bicycle messenger, and I worked in some special effects with film. I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but at one point I thought there are some officers that I knew who I really enjoyed over the lifetime. I thought, I'll at least do a ride around. I wanted to see what it was like. And as it happens, I went into other stuff. By 8th grade, just when you're nearing adulthood, right? Kids are expected to know adequate math, reading, probably name all the states, but we don't know our own minds. We're better equipped to grasp things like taxes than we are things that affect us. I think that's horrifying.
How do we address, or what are your thoughts on how do we get involved on these issues that are more society and human issues than an us versus them type situation? I was actually just talking to my girlfriend about this, that very often, even people who are emotionally affected by the current situation, if it doesn't affect them, they might feel awkward getting involved, because it's like, who am I to champion or be a part of this cause if it doesn't directly affect me? The answer is it affects everyone, and the only way to address this is by not having these splits.
Whatever you learn in your own therapy process, right? Hopefully you get a pretty decent toolkit. Not just one or two things. Ask for a handful of tools. Whatever you get from that, couple skills, your own personal regulation skills, right? You can apply that to society. So what I'll tell people, you could take family therapy and a lot of couples therapy theory and apply it to Congress. You got these people who they know that if they are not seen on camera rigorously quarreling, that their base may not be engaged. So you got to think about the people who think that way, and you got to think about the base who responds to that. Okay. People who don't split a lot can probably see through that. But again, whatever you may gain from your own personal growth experience, you can apply that, you really can, to the larger society. When people can do things like learn the difference between criticism and complaining. Complaint is, hey, Marcel, you said you're going to do the dishes tonight. You didn't do them. So I'll do them tonight if you're too busy. But let's team up next time. Criticism is, I walk in the room, I look at the dishes, and I'm saying, what the hell is wrong with you? Why am I talking about couples therapy principles? Because if you apply those to conversations between people who can actually make a major difference, they would probably both get a lot of what they want, and we would see a happier culture. We're just not there yet.
Earlier, that I think is just so important, especially around times like this, is why don't people act until it affects them directly? And oftentimes it's because they don't have that level of exposure.
If you don't have exposure to something pretty far beyond your own doorstep, literally neurologically doesn't get downloaded into you to consider that. If you get exposed pretty regularly, especially in formative years, it's on your mind and it's not weird.
If you want to feel more personally involved, or even be more personally involved, when you gain more exposure and you get more experiences and you get out there and get to meet more people, get to see more neighborhoods, whatever it is, your personal world expands. So you go from my house in the suburbs to this is now more of a person of the world. And I feel like that's when these causes and these issues and these injustices start to resonate more personally, because you've been exposed and have some level of experience or connection with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a mixed blessing in some ways, because there's a burden to the information that some people, a lot of people, may not find comfortable. And it's not. On the other hand, if you get exposure to it, if you can handle it, if you can take it in and really earnestly find curiosity in that, and then you toss on top of that things like reading really interesting things, your mind is on fire. It's a great time to be alive.
Just 1% change consistently over time will have a huge impact. And if you look at your day, 1% is only 10 to 15 minutes a day. It doesn't take much time to do something for 10 or 15 minutes. And if you just do it consistently, you'll actually make a change and have an impact.
When people can do something that helps, I think, a lot more than they realize, it often creates a ripple effect, because they've set an example and other people figure, I'll just do a little thing too. And the little things end up being the big things.
Yeah.
And by the way, that applies to, I think, everything in life.
I think a lot of times people build these barriers because they think about too much, and they create this situation that it's like, oh, I have to do something really big and it has to be impactful, and then they don't take action or they don't do anything. Then once they just do that one little thing or that one little conversation, that's where like all the real magic starts to happen. And
for someone who, and the first 3 steps or so are the hardest, where you're already uncomfortable and you got someone like me telling you, if you push into the discomfort, you're not only going to win the day in little ways, but 2, 3, 4 weeks from now, your brain will change, because I can't prove that to them, right?
Yeah.
Your brain's going to change, and you someday might even get really comfortable or even love the challenge of that, and your life can not just be pretty good, you can really flourish, and it can be a bounty of joys.